Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole on Monday, June 5th at 4:30 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We have a few opening comments. First off, I'd like to just say congratulations to all the DVSS and St. Anthony's graduation events. I attended them both and they were very, very well done. So congratulations to all the organizers, the students, parents, teachers, administrators. It was both of them were credible events. So thank you. I also had the honors of attending the Legion's Veterans Supper this weekend, and we're just really so blessed with the amount of volunteers that make everything happen. In fact, the whole event was ran by volunteers, even volunteers from the Legion did the meal. So we just have a wonderful community, and thank you to all the veterans and everything that they have done to keep our country safe and allowing us to have the lives we have. Crystal?
Yeah, I just want to inform everyone that Her Worship and myself and Tom all attended Siksika last week in regards to the returning of the ribstones from Ottawa to Siksika to the Blackfoot Crossing. And I think it just, our connection to the land here with the Indigenous community and the flood mitigation program that we're doing, and still, developing relationships with Siksika and Blackfoot Crossing. So it's great to see those relationships continue.
Thank you. Tom?
Yes, Your Worship. The annual Celebration of Excellence is going to be held on Thursday. And this is a wonderful, wonderful thing that the Chamber of Commerce, Rotary Club of Drumheller, and Travel Drumheller honor some of the incredible people in the valley. The Chamber honors numerous businesses for their expertise and professionalism, and the Rotary has athlete awards and Citizen of the Year award, and Travel Drumheller has tourism awards. So it's always a wonderful opportunity to celebrate all of the incredible things that are going on in the valley. I'd also like to mention that our mayor just recently won a very nice award, King Charles Award, and congratulations to Your Worship for that honor.
Thank you, Tom. That was very nice. And thank you to Damien and Pam for all the organization on that, as well as the Legion for hosting it. It was a wonderful day. All right, any additions to the agenda? All right, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as presented, please? Tony?
I move that the committee adopt the agenda for the June 9, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting as presented.
Seconder? Patrick? All in favor? Carried. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes of May 12th, please? Stephanie?
I move that the committee approve the minutes for the May 12th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting as presented.
Seconder, please. Patrick? Comments? All in favor? Carried. All right, we shall move down. We don't have a lot on this agenda today. Down to 6.2.1, please, Jared.
Thank you, Your Worship. Members of the committee, you have a briefing note before you that will be presented by Jared Bronstein, Director of Infrastructure Services. And this is in regards to a gravel road improvement program. This was requested a while ago and looking to provide greater service levels to the community. And this is kind of giving you an outline of exactly what is required for a gravel road improvement program. So currently the town has 138 kilometers of roads and alleyways, with approximately 40% of them gravel. With that, our inventory consists of 16 kilometers of local road, 9.5 kilometers of regional connection roads, so those would be roads that go into the counties, and 28 kilometers of alleyways. Paving all these roads has a significant cost. We are looking at upwards of about $20 million to now address all our gravel roads within the community, so that includes the alleyways. Just to give you some idea of figures, to do all our local roads, so that'd be roads that are within the community that service property owners, would be $7.2 million. And for all our regional connection connectors, it'd be another 4.3. And then to address all our alleyways, we're looking at about another 7.6 million. So trying to look at gravel roads is a as an improvement program was fairly interesting. It's a significant dollar value. What we're looking for today from the committee is some sort of idea in regards to how you want to address our gravel roads within the community. There are three options before the committee. So option one is establish a simple financial policy. So this would require us to say that we're going to spend $100,000 a year, or $200,000 a year, or $50,000 a year towards gravel roads. This would also be supplemented by some sort of policy that would substantiate those roads to give us some sort of priority system, to just a basic policy saying that we're going to resurface all our roads within 30 years, or all our local gravel roads within 30 years, or all our alleyways within 30 years. And that would relate to about an $800,000 a year investment, depending on which level of service we want to provide the community. And then the last one is, again, looking at how we establish what our ranking and our priority system is, and then looking to now go strictly priority and saying that we're going to do all our high priority roads, then we're going to move on to our medium priority roads, and then we're going to go on to our low priority roads. That financial impact isn't 100% available at this time because we haven't done the analysis on whether or not what classifies as a high, medium, and low priority gravel road. There is a proposed priority index within this report, and goes and looks at things as total traffic, maintenance requirements, driveway counts, etc., to look at how we'd prioritize those from a medium or a high, medium, and low. Is there any questions of the committee? Is there any discussion you'd like to have? Blown away by the numbers?
Tom?
Yeah, thank you for the information. It's in depth and detailed as usual, and always a little disappointing. First thing I would like to suggest and comment on is when you include alleyways into this, I don't think, and I'm just speaking for myself, but I'm thinking maybe for council, I don't think we were necessarily thinking about alleyways when we started the idea of the gravel road improvement program. That being said, I mean, there are some alleyways, so to speak, in the town that are used kind of as main access roads to residents. I'm thinking of in Newcastle, for example, behind Boland's and Shetty's and I mean, that basically an alley, but that's their main road. So it's a little bit of a different category. But I would like to suggest that we don't worry about alleyways. I know the alleyway behind my house, there's no way you'd ever want to pave that. It's on a hill, and they literally have to gravel and sand it in the winter right now because it gets so slippery that the garbage trucks can't get up it. So be absolutely no point in paving something like that. So I would suggest right off the bat, I would like to kind of see the alleyways taken right out of the equation. The other factor I would suggest with your priority index, I can appreciate the traffic factor, obviously, functional classification factor as to what type of vehicles, that seems to make sense. Maintenance factor, I think that makes sense. Driveway factor, how many driveways you might have. I would also like to suggest, however, that we put in maybe a historical factor. There are some roads in the town that we have had literally requests for years to be paved. So I think that should maybe be part of that function. And then further to that, I think, you know, if the people who live on a gravel road are okay with that and are not interested in having it paved, then I'm not sure, you know, why we would necessarily. So I would like to add that function of requests. So maybe there is a road that people are requesting to be paved, which to me should be more of a priority than a road that gravel road that people live on, but nobody has ever asked to have it paved or even thinking about having it paved. I love the idea of option number 3, of basically coming up with the high priority roads. And I'm not quite sure how you prioritize that. I guess you use your index. But that to me obviously makes sense. I mean, there are some roads that probably need and want to be paved before others. So anyways, very, very comprehensive thing. And the other thing I would just like to mention is I love the idea of, putting it over 5 years, 10 years. I mean, I don't think there's any rush for some of these roads. They've been not paved for many years. And I don't think there's any huge big rush to pave them all tomorrow or anything. I mean, 10 years, whatever. Yeah, seems sensible.
Anybody else? Crystal?
Yeah, thank you, Jared. I just had a quick question. How do you determine the maintenance factor? Is that a different formula that you guys use to do that?
Yeah, so there's requirements within the maintenance factor how often we go in as an operational aspect to go in and do dust control, to actual grading, to do dust control and grading, and whether or not we're receiving multiple requests for going in and doing additional
Right.
grading. So that then adjusts the maintenance factor.
Okay. Okay. And then specifically these two that you've provided as examples, they were parts of a development. And so moving forward, whenever there's a new subdivision or any requirements, it is going to be specific that that road gets paved so that we're not having to deal with this 15, 20 years down the road where these developments didn't get paved, correct?
So yes, this will now become part of our development standards to make sure that the at least fronting roads are paved, full curb gutter, etc., as part of that development.
Okay, and then my other question is, what if, so specifically where Tom was talking about in Newcastle there, two residents have paid for over time local improvement for pavement. And then say potentially in the future that one gets done. So how does that correlate? Because two have paid for local improvement, now the other two don't have to.
So that's the trick, Councilor
Okay.
Ferretta, is how do we address those types of situations? Do you want to make it a local improvement for all gravel roads, and there has to be a property contribution to this policy, or do you want to now pave every gravel surface within the community? Because you are right, some people may say, well, why did you pave that guy's and you're not willing to pave mine, etc. So it becomes a question of financial capabilities and financial awareness from those community members. So
And I think I'm in the wrong business because paving is very expensive.
yes, it is.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Tony?
Yeah, very detailed. I guess it's enlightening to see the numbers that come out. But again, I'm with Tom too. I don't know that there's a flavor to do alleyways and low priority roads and rolling them into a strict policy would, I think, take away some of our flexibility here. There's a couple roads that are identified as kind of forget-me-nots on the development. Now, there was a discussion here before on the impact on the assessments of the properties that would be tagged on that road. Would they be additionally assessed for the improvement, or would this be coming out of our existing roads budget, which is $1 million? Is
So
it down to 750 now?
So our existing roads budget is $750,000 plus another $350 for sidewalks, curb and gutter. So
And we're trying to squeeze some of the
We're trying
rails
to
to
squeeze,
trails
yes.
out of that as well.
yes.
So now we're gonna try and squeeze some more, yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be my reservation here, is that we squeeze too much and the rest gets neglected, right? So dealing with two one-offs, I'm assuming as long as the property owners are okay with the property tax increase, which would come out of a later assessment, versus identifying every road in town and every alleyway and doing a more broad approach. I'd like to dummy it down a bit.
Stephanie?
Thanks for all the work put into this. I don't think we need to do alleyways for sure, and yeah, paving isn't cheap. So thank you.
Anybody else?
I was just gonna respond to a couple of things. So, all really good comments. I guess putting my hat on here a bit is that, so I heard Tony talk about two places in particular. So, right, so let's be clear about it. 9th Street Northwest is what people hear about for a while. And then there's 8th Street in Knackwine. However, probably there are several others, including stuff in East Cooley, that as long as I've been here is on the list every single year for doing it. So I think the reality of saying let's do a couple of streets and then we're kind of all happy, I don't think that's what people will actually expect. They will want their stuff done too. I think secondly is to Tom's point of, well, some people may not want their streets done or whatever. If you told people who have a gravel road that we will pave your road and there's no additional burden for you as an specific taxpayer, everyone will want that done, right? So I think that's why the criteria that Jared's got, you know, and it's in its draft form, so whether it gets tweaked a little bit or not in the future, I think is good. I think that's a real clear message for council and administration going forward to say, here's how, this is why we chose this road in East Cooley over this road in Knackwine, because there's a higher value of this and this and this and this, as opposed to just going, well, because someone complains a lot brighter than other people do. So I think it's far better to actually have this. I think Jared could probably speak more about where this formula came from. So I won't speak about it, but I think that just those are some of the pieces. I agree with the alleys. Alleys should be completely a local improvement, tax funded piece for that. I think these other ones, if council thinks that they want to create this program to start looking at some of these with a good formula to it, I think that would be a real key to do. Just again from us, because you're not paving anything this year. I think we've already resolved that, right? But it's setting up the next council for success and what it looks like for them, right? I think I have to say it because I'm at the end more than the beginning. The couple of these roads that never got paved as part of developments all got voted on by council. So it's a matter of, so they were the ones that made the decision to not pave the roads because it was a burden on the property, on the developer. So you need to recognize that councils can do that. And that's what happened for the two that I just mentioned a minute ago. So I think it's making that really tight is a big key, which is not part of this, but it's also a key piece for us going forward, right?
Anybody else? Yeah, and I echo that, Daryl, with that's why the municipal development plan has got to be tight, that no developer can just build again without the curb and gutter and sidewalks and everything else that goes with it, because unfortunately, some of these that are coming to us have been coming, well, in my 8 years here, and probably the 8 years before that, and the 8 years before that. And I think unfortunately, I I would love to come up with a solution because the next council is going to get it anyways. So it'd be better to have a plan and then that way it can go forward. I do agree with option 3, and I do agree there has to be a priority index. And I think that, you know, all the things you've got in this priority index are all valid. I do like the idea of the historical request because it is something that has come up for years. So I would like to see that. And absolutely, I would axe alleys unless local improvement, absolutely. So those are my thoughts. Go ahead, Patrick.
I agree with option 3 as well. I also agree with the alleys, but I also think that maybe if we did go forward with something like this, it would have to, and looking at an annual contribution, make it worthwhile each, if it has to be 2 or 3 years to build up that amount of money to make it a proper project instead of just doing, you know, the 100 feet we can do with $100,000 or whatnot. Let's budget it so it makes an impact when we do it.
Stephanie?
Thank you. I'm wondering if it would also include the industrial area, because I've heard complaints about high grade over in that area not being paved. So I was just wondering if the priority index would include industrial area and just not residential.
So the priority index would include all local roads, so to consider the industrial area as a local road, so it would be addressed at the time. So I'm hearing a few things from the committee. One, drop alleyways, leave alleyways as a local improvement area, which will, and I'm asking the committee, do you want this included within the policy to say that local roads or alleyways will be a local improvement only address? At, of course, the discretion of council at any time, they can change their own policy. The second, you want to go after high priority local roads. Now, hearing from Councilor Kalafa, are you wanting to cap at a certain amount of funding per year, or do you want to see all your high priorities done within 3 years? Because there's going to be costs associated with this. So all your high priority roads completed over 3 years might run upwards of $1 million a year, whereas that completely destroys your street improvement program.
I think you had in here over 30 years or something.
So that was under option 2, and that was all the local roads, not just high priority roads. So this is just kind of give you an idea of cost. So if we only did our local roads over the next 30 years, it would cost us $800,000 a year. So if I do my high priority local roads, I'd have to do that math still.
Yeah, and I guess I agree with Patrick. I think you would know your budget better than the rest of us in the sense of what you have planned for the next 10 years that need done, and out of what that needs done, what's left.
Yep.
And I think that's would be the best way to make sure that you keep moving those along, but you also don't stop. You don't want to, stop the process of advancing the community as a whole. Go ahead, Crystal.
Could this be a combination of local improvement and partially funded?
Of course, Councilor, it could be any funding model in which the committee or council decides to move forward with. So you could do a 10-90 split, or I say 90% funded by the community and a 10% funded by local, or you could do a 50-50 split, or whichever. I can provide those options in a policy, or I can just provide those options as part of the budget process.
And then, so it would just be those residents, if they all came together and said, hey, we're willing to do our local improvement, but this is our max that we can contribute, then.
Yep, that's another option. Yep.
Okay. Okay, I'm just thinking outside the box.
Stephanie?
Sorry, one more question. Can you give me an example of the regional connection roads?
Monarch Hill. I can't remember the name of the road out in Rosedale, but the road that heads up into Starland County across the bridge deck. So those are gravel roads, would be regional connectors.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was thinking they must be. I don't think we'd have to pave the regional connection roads, but I'm not sure how the rest of council feels about that.
One of the interesting things, just to jump in, so if you're looking at the formula that Jared's presented, the maintenance factor on those roads are multiples higher than they are on some of the other roads we're thinking about in town, right? Because you're going up the valley wall, there's an awful lot of grading and graveling done every year that is not having to be done on some of the other roads. So again, some of that formula does tweak a little bit depending on it. So you might actually say it's more cost effective for us to pave Monarch Hill than it would be to pave 3 streets in town, because it will save us having to do all that maintenance on it in the future, right? So that's why it's a little bit more. It's not as cut and dried as you think it is with respect to the roads you're thinking of. So
Go ahead.
Sorry, this might not be the question for here, but say we paved Monarch Hill. Does that now become a high priority to sand that in the winter and everything for the town and change that way and cost that way?
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, so there's potential impacts to operational costs if you pave a road. However, we are up there grading and sanding that gravel road anyways, because what I understand, it gets quite slick in the winter due to icing. So whether or not it's a gravel surface or a paved surface, our maintenance costs from a winter perspective probably wouldn't change.
Tom?
Just a bit of an aside, when we are doing paving, do we coordinate with Alberta Transportation? So if they are deciding to pave some of their responsibility highways in town, do we kind of coordinate with them to see if we can get the same company, or is there any, we don't do that? We do that? I don't know.
no, it's usually the opposite way around, Tom. So for instance, not to tell tales out of school, but they want to pave 575 in the next couple of years, but they want and they have done this with us for all of the highway projects through town, except for the last one, which was 838, where we have actually hired the consultant, hired the contractor, and they just pay us for that service. So they usually want the local experience to be there as opposed to someone from Red Deer running the show remotely. So that's usually what happens. That's what's happened on every project in the last 10 years, except for 838. So.
Anybody else? Is the other thing in this formula, I'm just curious, Jared, so some of these areas that you're looking at, I mean, they pay some pretty substantial taxes as well versus some of the other areas. Is that taken into account?
And not within the current formula, no, that's not taken into account. We'd have to see how that would impact the formula. Just because you pay higher taxes doesn't mean your service level should be any less than somebody who pays less taxes. So that's an interesting conversation to have, is whether or not taxation should impact and whether or not your road is paved or not.
Yeah, I think it's something that's got to be considered just because some, some people are paying up to $8,000 or $9,000 a year in taxes comparatively to somebody else who's paying that and has all the services. So I think it's something that should be looked at in the formula. And the last thing I had was, where the heck was that? Sorry. On the allocation. So obviously we apply continually for grant programs and stuff. Can we look to see if there's any extra grant programs on something like this to kind of catch up the community?
The discussions I've had with the province to present, no, there are no grant programs within the province. There may be federal grants that come out that could address this. Usually, again, grant programs are for new and shiny things. That's usually not pavement, but we will definitely keep our eyes open. Usually, the grant program this would fall under would be your STIP. However, there are no streams within that STIP program for this particular avenue. However, if you wanted to pave your regional connector roads, so your Modoc or whatever, that's actually more in line to the STIP program than anything local, because it's now contributing to the regional benefit, not just the community of Drumheller. So
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, because if we could take those roads, kind of separate them from the actual municipality, we might have the ability to continue to move the valley forward while those are done through grants. But anyways, I know you guys always work hard on trying to get support from provincial and federal government, so I ask you to keep hammering away. All right, any any more discussion on that one? Okay, so I need a motion, council, on that, please. Crystal?
I move that the committee directs administration to develop and present a gravel road improvement policy at a future committee of the whole meeting.
Seconder, please. Tony? All in favor? Carrie, thank you for a great discussion on that one, everyone. Okay, that's the only thing we had on the agenda except a closed session, so can I have a motion, please, council? Tony?
I move that the committee close the meeting to the public at 5 o'clock to discuss local public body confidences as per FOIP 23, local public body confidences, and FOIP 24, advice from officials.
Seconder, please. Stephanie? All in favor? Carried. Thank you, everyone. We'll go into closed session, and following this, we will return to just end the meeting. So thank you for being with us. Enjoy the weather out there, and be kind to your neighbors and fellow friends. Take care. Thank you.